What's up and welcome back. Today we're talking about how we're never going to see a single player DLC for Red Dead Redemption 2 despite very popular demand. I'm Bandit Barney, bringing you everything you need to know about Red Dead 2 and Red Dead Online, and let's just dive into it. Like I just said, we're never going to see a single player DLC for Red Dead 2, even though it is in extremely popular demand, especially after the most recent I would call failed update for Red Dead Online. So why is that? Why is it that we're never gonna see something that so many people are asking for? And at the same time, why are so many people asking for this DLC that in the past, for like the title GTA, you didn't see asked for as much? Not that it wasn't there, but it wasn't as much. Let's dive in. I think we need to start with that this is not Rockstar's formula. Rockstar's formula isn't to release their game and then put out DLCs for that single player. In recent years and since GTA 5, the formula has been release the title and then put out an online experience. Nowadays, games just have online experiences. That's where games go. That's the direction they take because online gaming is very, very popular. But something that Rockstar has done here is they've tapped into, I think, an audience that they didn't know that they were tapping into, or the audience is just much bigger than they thought they were tapping into. And that's that the Red Dead 2 audience is so much older, or maybe not so much, but they're older than the GTA audience. And so I don't think that this was something that Rockstar really thought about when they're putting together their, as I've called it before, roadmap for what they're going to do with the game once it's released. I think that they are following a very similar roadmap to GTA 5, and the reason being because GTA 5 was a major success. Why not follow that roadmap? Why not go in that same direction and have that same major success again? And with the initial release of Red Dead 2, it looked like that same thing was going to happen. An extremely popular game out of the gate, goes into a good online experience, and then flourishes. Well, there was a transition period for GTA, and we're clearly in a transition period for Red Dead, but I don't think that that changes where things are going, and that means that there's going to be a single player DLC. Although there is a much larger portion of the community that's asking for that single player DLC, and I think that's because a much larger portion of the community for Red Dead 2 is older. And generally, older gamers have, you know, a job. They're supporting themselves or their family or whatever. And when you're doing that, when you come home from work, you go to game for an hour to unwind, spend a little bit of time there. It's not something that you're spending as much time as you did when you're a kid, just because you don't have that time. And when you don't have that time, one, you're probably not going in and trying to build brand new relationships with people online, because that is a little bit time consuming. Although online games make it easy to do that, it is a little bit time consuming. And more so what you're doing is after a long day of work, you want to just unwind and put your mind at ease with something that's just different than, you know, your everyday 1, 2, 3 step routine. So the campaign fits that perfectly. The single player fits that perfectly. You get home from work, you want to jump on, play some single player. The story for Red Dead 2 is one of, if not the best stories that has ever been delivered from a developer. It's absolutely amazing. And you just jump on for a couple hours here and there to play it. And eventually you beat it. Whereas the GTA audience is more of, and not completely, these are generalizations, guys. Stick with me, a bit of a generalization, but it's more of an audience that is a kid that'll get home from school and wants to go play online, probably with their friends. And they just jump in online, and they're much more apt to, you know, spending time customizing things and you know, buying those microtransactions or whatever, and showing that off to their friends or whatever. Very large generalization, but just at its core, the audiences for Red Dead 2 and for GTA are different. There's an older audience for Red Dead 2, and that audience being older means that the same roadmap that worked so well for GTA isn't going to be the same roadmap that's going to work just as well for Red Dead 2. At least in theory. We can see in the recent update that Rockstar has released that they're pushing the same microtransaction, you know, roadmap that GTA has gone. And even they found out that it worked so well with GTA, and they're pushing it right away. We have the example that while in beta, the game has microtransactions. So they've already gone down that road of going the online direction and doing microtransactions, which as a business decision, I don't think is the wrong decision. I think when you sell a game that's as popular and does so well, literally breaks records, that Red Dead 2 has, not going in the online direction with microtransactions would be the same as me looking at the business and saying, all right, so we're just going to accept millions of dollars of loss because we don't want to do that. No, you got to do it because it's what's business smart. It's the business smart decision. So you go in that direction, following the same formula. But now you have a large predicament. You have a big problem because you followed the same formula that worked so well before. And in theory, it will work well again, but you haven't executed on the actual online. The online it's not good. And on top of that, you have a large part of the audience who would be very willing to buy single player DLCs. You have a huge portion of the audience who, if Rockstar had gone the route, let's say, just, think about this for a second, they'd gone the route of going, releasing the game and not releasing an online mode. And then 2 months later, 3 months later, releasing a DLC for single player. If they could keep up that pace, if they could, in theory, keep up that pace, so many of us would have gone and bought the DLC because the single player was so good. The story was so good. We're itching for more. That's what made online so popular in the first place. We wanted more Red Dead 2. So you're in a predicament now, though, because you have instead gone the online route and added microtransactions. And you can't very well add in purchasable DLC and have microtransactions in your game. If you did, the community would be in outrage because it's just like it's a standard that hasn't been set. Microtransactions are there so that you don't have to purchase the new content. That's what their purpose is. It meets both needs. It meets the need of people who want to spend money on the game, and it meets the need of people who don't want to spend money on the game, but it keeps everyone playing when they're done well. And if you add on top of microtransactions purchasable DLC, it feels like even more than it already does, which is something Rockstar hasn't done well, that hey, you gotta pay money to really enjoy this game to the fullest. And at that point, you're really turning off a huge portion of the people that want to play your game. Not that Rockstar wouldn't do that, because it looks like right now that Rockstar just doesn't, they don't care about how poorly the online is being received. Well, I don't want to say that. Not that they don't care how poorly it's being received, but that's not going to change the direction they're going. They're not going to come out and say that, hey, where we wanted to take it and where you guys wanted to take it is different, and that's why this is happening. They're not going to come out and say anything like that. They're just going to keep going in the direction that they want. And ultimately, it leaves players stuck, wanting to have this great experience that the single player delivered on, but having this online experience that doesn't even deliver on even a minute level comparative to that experience you had prior to the online, which is the story. And you can see on Reddit, on Twitter, everywhere, people are asking more and more, hey, we want more content like the story. Because this is something that Rockstar does arguably better than anyone else. They create stories that are just completely awesome. You look at other games nowadays that would try and match up to that, like the level of detail that goes into the stories that Rockstar creates is unheard of. And that's why it takes them so long to bring these games out, because they do it the best. They literally do it the best. I mean, you're in a story, and when you're going to different missions, depending on the distance you are from the person you're riding with, they're going to be yelling at you, talking to you, or even talking quieter if you're right next to them. The level of detail is insane in this game, and the way it feels when you're just roaming around the world with all the sounds that the world has to offer, it's insane. And that is where they've captured their core audience. Their core audience, who happens to be older than the GTA audience, is captured by that experience. Online has not delivered that experience at all. And if you're going to keep that core audience that you've captured with Red Dead 2, then you have to make more of that. You've got to make more of that experience rather than going in this direction of pushing the microtransactions on a platform that just hasn't developed enough to stay entertaining for people to want to buy those microtransactions. So what do? What do? How do you execute and capture that core audience that loved the story without charging for it? How do you get that done? And is that going to result in them actually going to a single player DLC and charging for it? I don't think so. I think that's out of the realm of possibility. But the direction you should go is rather make the online feel much more like the story. Add in a lot more pieces where it feels like the world's interconnected. Add in pieces where different hunting and pelts and getting different pieces, parts from animals can be crafted into making certain things. Make the experience of online feel much more involved in everything you do, rather than, hey, try this out, try this out, try this out, and having these different subcategories of things people can do. You can go fishing, or you can go do this. Ultimately, all of them earn you money. Whereas in the story, you have so much intertwined in what can be done and what you can accomplish by doing different things. Hunting doesn't just mean earning money. It also means crafting things that you couldn't otherwise earn. Give us more of that in the online experience. And I've said this before. I know that I know a lot of you guys disagree with me, but I enjoy microtransactions. I think that when they're done right, it's great for games. It makes games more popular. They have a lot more of a wider base because the game has more access, or people have more access to the game because there's no threshold of entry. You don't have to purchase to enter. For Red Dead Online, though, this isn't necessarily the case, because although that in theory Red Dead Online is free, you still have to purchase Red Dead 2 to get it. So if you don't spend the $60 to get it, then you can't get to the free Red Dead Online. But it doesn't seem like that's really going to be the hold me back thing that it could be, because the game's so popular, or so many people have already gone and spent that money on it. So now Rockstar needs to execute and add in experiences to the online that are like the experiences you have in the story mode, so that the core audience, which happens to be older and which happens to be an audience that won't receive the same roadmap to GTA as well, we need to capture that and keep that in the online, because clearly that's where Rockstar is going. Clearly they're pushing the microtransactions. It's clear that that's the way that they're going to earn their money going forward with this title, but it needs to have pieces of that story mode involved in order to keep the audience that's there excited and willing to play it in the future. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think down below, because I know a lot of you guys are people that want the single player additions, and not that I don't want them. I just think that it's something that Rockstar won't do now, because they're clearly focused on monetizing the online, which isn't a bad thing. It's a bad thing that it's not working well, but clearly focused on monetizing that, and that's how they're gonna, as a business, acquire more money. So that's where the effort's gonna go. I just think that we need that story involved a bit there. Let me know down below. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate you, and until next time, take care.